Hello guys, and welcome back to the Let's Get Real podcast with your hosts Claudia and Grace.
So today we're going to be interviewing I'm going to be interviewing Grace and talking about your journey with chronic fatigue.
Yeah.
Or is it known as ME?
Yeah, so chronic fatigue and ME. So they're both the same. Also, Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. How are you all? I feel like we haven't done a podcast in so long.
I know, it's really annoying because I wish I could talk to you, to you guys, and be like, how are you? Tell me about your new year. But that's not how podcasts work.
No. But yeah, I hope you all had a lovely New Year and Christmas.
Yes, definitely. How was yours? Because we haven't actually seen each other in 3 weeks, which is the longest we've ever been apart.
Because normally we see each other every week, sometimes even twice a week.
Yeah, twice, 3 times a week sometimes.
And then over Christmas, we just didn't see each other
at all. Yeah.
It's just so weird.
Yeah, it was so sad.
We're back to it. We're back filming.
Yeah.
Back into the routine of it. I mean, we had a backlog anyway.
Exactly.
But
pretty much now. So we're filming this a day before it's being released. And apart from one other of our guests, they're all of the ones that you will now be hearing being filmed in 2022, which is so exciting. Oh my gosh, 2010. I can't speak. 2022 sounds so weird to say.
I know, it's weird, isn't it? It's so weird, but at the same time I'm excited for a new year. I'm excited to see how the podcast progresses.
I know. I hope we started this just before the end of 2021.
Yeah,
so I'm so excited to see where we're at 1 year from starting.
I know
that's gonna be mad.
And I don't know what if you're watching, you will have noticed we've got new microphones.
Yes. We look like little TV news presenters.
Literally. We hope the sound quality is way better than it was before. We did have some feedback about the sound quality of some of them, which we did realise.
We heard it listening back ourselves.
Obviously, because we had a backlog, we'd already recorded them, so we kind of had to
put them out anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you can still hear us. It's just, but we're learning. We've never done a podcast before.
Exactly. So, So thank you so much for all of the
we really appreciate it.
Because now we've invested in some cute little microphones.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, I think they're cute, aren't they?
Yeah. We now have our own rather than sharing one.
Exactly. So hopefully sound quality is going to be better for you guys to listen to our lovely voices.
Right. So tell me a bit about your background and your experience with chronic fatigue, how it came about, or have you always had it?
Yeah, so I haven't always had it, but I've had it since I was a little girl.
Okay.
So I was diagnosed formally when I was 8 years old.
Aww.
So I'm now 23 years old, so I've had it a very long time. And it's actually quite funny because it is kind of a gender biased illness, so more females get it than males.
Okay.
But they don't tend to get it as young as I was when I got it, so that was quite different, I guess. So the way that I found out was pretty traumatic looking back now, but obviously
as an 8-year-old as well.
Yeah, as an 8-year-old I didn't know what was going on, but basically one evening my whole body just basically collapsed. I collapsed on the floor, almost like fainting, but I was aware of what was going on because my whole body was in excruciating pain, basically. Yeah, I know.
That is so sad.
I know. And yeah, I didn't really understand what was going on. I was in excruciating pain. I was just in my bedroom at the time, and it felt like, I don't know, it felt like someone was doing a Chinese burn, but all over my body. It felt like someone who was really strong was squeezing every single inch of my body. I can't describe the pain. It was crazy. And obviously my parents found me. And obviously being 8 years old, my dad kind of picked me up, and as he touched me, as he touched any part of my skin, it felt like someone was punching me. I can't describe. My whole body almost shut down in a way. It was awful. So we went to hospital, and they were amazing. They did so many tests and everything. I remember, even like to this day, I'm okay with blood tests now, but I remember that when I was 8 years old, I was there and I was sat having these blood tests, and it went on and on and on because they just did not know what was wrong with me. So they had to get so much blood, and I remember just sitting there, and I remember actually thinking at the time, like, I'm not going to have any blood left. Which obviously I just didn't know when I was little, did I was like, what's going on? So there were all of these things that they like just weren't sure what it was, so like glandular fever, and there were all of these kind of different things that they had to try and rule out. In the end, I got diagnosed with post-viral fatigue syndrome. So I think post-viral fatigue is probably the most common type of chronic fatigue, or ME. It's usually when you've had some kind of virus in your body that's attacking your body. And kind of the way that I personally describe it is that while my body is there trying to fight off the virus, so whether it's like a cough, a cold, whatever, I'm kind of it's kind of like I'm putting all of my energy into fighting that virus off. So there's not enough energy left for me. So that's where the extreme fatigue comes.
So do you remember being ill before you collapsed?
Well, so this is the thing. So when I had collapsed, I had just come back from holiday, and on holiday I had, the only thing that we can actually think of that it could have been is that I had a really bad rash all over my body that we just assumed was like a heat rash, like anyone would get when they'd go to like a hot country. So that's the only thing that the doctors can think it could have been that could have triggered it. But chronic fatigue is such like a difficult illness, and it's completely invisible in the sense like you can't look at someone and say, oh, they've got chronic fatigue. So it's so difficult to pinpoint exactly like how it came to be. So since having that, I then went back to school, tried to have as normal life as possible. Actually, I should probably say that when I did have it, I was off school. So once I had that collapse, I actually was off school for quite a while, mainly because straight after the collapse, I couldn't actually walk.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So my body was in so much pain. It was so weak that I physically couldn't hold myself up to walk. I was sleeping all the time. I was like wiped out. Like I literally had no energy whatsoever. So when I finally did go back to school, it was quite challenging because I had obviously missed a lot of school, but also I was only 8 years old. So
yeah,
like it's not the end of the world. But this kind of kept happening every single year, multiple times a year. So then when you add that up, so not only is it every few months I'd have a collapse, but then, or a crash. I think that's what like lots of other people would call it, as a crash. But then that would normally wipe me out, and like I'd not be able to walk for a few months, and then I'd slowly have to like start to learn how to walk. I'd have little crutches, like little children's crutches helping me. And then like I'd finally be better, and then I'd be back in school again, just catching up as much as I could. And then all of that, which obviously, like I said, when you're younger, obviously school is important, but it's not like the be all and end all. You don't have like GCSEs, exams, all of that kind of stuff.
You miss being at school, or did you enjoy like being at home?
I don't remember from like when I was like 8 years old. Like I don't remember that at all. I'm sure there was obviously a part of me that liked being at home, but I found it quite difficult as well, because I'd go and like, even because bear in mind this happens, or my chronic fatigue I've still got now, so these episodes would have happened like every single year that I've been at school. So when I was younger, it kind of didn't really affect me too much, but then like I in particular noticed it as I got older. I'd be off for ages, and then I come back and everything just seemed different, and like friends who were friends weren't friends anymore, and like all of that kind of stuff. So I was like, what's going on? And I felt like I had missed so much, so like trying to get back into the swing of it was like quite challenging. And then I felt like once I got back into the swing of it, I'd have another collapse and I'd be off again. So it was just like trying to like keep up with everything going on.
How are your teachers with it? Like, could they understand?
The teachers were interesting. I had, you know what, I will give some of them credit. I had some amazing teachers who really, really helped me. They understood. They would do everything in their power to like try and help me catch up and like keep up
Yeah.
to date. I also obviously had some teachers that just didn't understand. So with chronic fatigue, I'd say one of the biggest things is that lots of people just don't get it. They can't see anything wrong with you. And especially when I was seriously ill, I obviously wasn't well enough to go into school. So like no one ever saw me that unwell.
Yeah.
They would just see me when I came back and they'd be like, well, she's been gone for a couple of months. Where's she been? Or whatever. So I think it was quite difficult for them to understand. And when the most common thing that I get a lot is you say to people, oh, I have chronic fatigue. And the response I get back is, oh yeah, I get tired sometimes.
Oh my gosh.
Which like I don't mind people saying, like it's completely understandable.
It must be annoying because it's like, I mean, they clearly just don't understand what it is.
Yeah, exactly.
At the same time, it's like you're going through all of that and people just think that you're just a bit tired.
Like, yeah. Like, and that's the thing. I think when I was younger, it used to upset me more and like annoy me more. Whereas now I've just kind of accepted it and I completely get like, of course, if you haven't experienced something, how are you supposed to know what it is?
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to know, are you? But yeah.
Right. So as you got older, did your symptoms get better or?
Yeah.
Because I know now, I don't think you've.
Yeah, I haven't.
Collapsed.
So yeah, I haven't had a collapse since the beginning of my gap year. So after I left school. So that would have been, I want to say 2017.
Okay.
So, which is amazing because it's obviously now 2022. So it's been quite a long time since I've had a proper collapse.
Right.
So yeah, my symptoms have definitely got better. So I'll quickly like run over what symptoms I have. Bearing in mind that everything I say in this podcast, it's all about my personal experience. And I've now met quite a few other people who actually have chronic fatigue, and some of their experiences are so similar to mine and others are really, really different. So yeah, just in case, I'm not claiming to be an expert or anything, guys.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. I'm not claiming to be an expert. I'm just kind of coming at this from my personal experience with it. But yeah, the symptoms that I usually get are extreme muscle pain, in particular in my legs. Like that's like usually one of the first symptoms I get is my legs will start to hurt, almost like you've got extreme DOMS, which is delayed onset muscle soreness. But it's like a slightly different pain to it. It's like more achy.
Okay, can you differentiate?
Yeah,
because yeah.
So now I can. When I was younger, I probably couldn't so much. But yeah, I get that. I get really bad headaches. Obviously, the extreme fatigue.
Yeah,
like that's the like biggest one that I get. Then what else? Oh, I get brain fog, which is like very like difficult to explain, I'd guess. So it's not necessarily memory loss.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, I guess it's like fog. So for example, I forget what I'll be in the middle of saying a sentence and I'll completely forget what I'm saying. And it will be like the first half of the statement or the sentence is like here in my head. And then the second part is over there, but there's a thick layer of fog in front of it. And I just can't like get to it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like you're in like a bit of a haze sometimes and you just can't like get out of it, if that makes sense.
And how often do you get that? Does it come in episodes or is it like?
Yeah, so I think that's the thing with chronic fatigue. It's like one of the reasons why it's really difficult to understand is 1 second I'll be completely fine, like literally completely fine. And then a few hours later, a day later, a month later, I will not be fine whatsoever.
Yeah.
And these symptoms come and go whenever they please. Like I've kind of come to like deal with it and know what the symptoms are and like how to manage them, I guess. And that's probably how I've prevented having a collapse in the past few years, because I kind of really know my body now. I know what happens just before I have a collapse. So if any of those symptoms do happen, which is like the muscle soreness, the extreme fatigue, also I just kind of like, I feel like I just know now in my body. But I know that sounds really strange, but like I feel like I've just come to know when that might happen. I just kind of stop, I rest, I kind of do everything to look after myself just to prevent a collapse.
So obviously you're very into the gym.
Yes. Really.
We are fitness girls.
We are fitness girls.
How does that kind of affect the chronic fatigue? Does it help? Does it make things worse? Like,
yeah, so it's definitely challenging, I'd say. Yeah, like obviously it sounds a bit strange to have something that really like wipes you out, like have an illness that completely wipes you out, makes you so exhausted, and then to go, okay, well actually I'm going to go off to the gym. It's kind of
like, does your family think like,
not so much my family, but like there's other people who just don't get it, and they're like, oh well, you're capable of doing this but you're not capable of doing that, like,
yeah,
like, and I had that a lot at school.
A bit judgy.
Yeah, I had like, or like, I guess it is judgy, but it came from people just not getting it and not understanding. But we can go into that later. Sorry, what was the question? You see, here we go, brain fog
moment. Gym, does it affect you, or does it?
Yeah, so it does affect me to a certain extent. So if I'm going through really like bad periods of my fatigue, then I kind of can't really go to the gym, or if I do, I've got to do like very minimal amount.
Yeah,
but I would say lifting weights has really helped my chronic fatigue. So when I was younger, and they've actually changed the guidelines now, but when I was younger and this first happened to me, the guidelines on chronic fatigue were that you should do graded exercise therapy in order to help. This was usually like in the form of like cardio kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Anytime when I was younger, especially when I was much younger, and I would go and do cardio, it completely wiped me out. So I actually had, which I know like lots of people I went to school with, they never understood. So I wasn't allowed to do cross country, which, I mean, looking back, absolute win.
That is so good.
I know. There you go. There's a benefit. That is a positive of having chronic fatigue. I was not allowed to do cross country because when I was at my first school, when I was probably like 8, 9, 10 years old, I did cross country because like I was having a good time at that point. Like I felt fine. So I did cross country, and then I collapsed and I was out for 6 months, maybe. I was out for a very long time. So that's maybe crazy. My hate for cardio has like stemmed from that, like in some like psychological way.
Maybe you're scared of collapsing on the treadmill or something.
There you go.
Like that would be very traumatic.
Can I claim that when people say let's do cardio? Can I be like, no?
I mean, I would never say let's do cardio.
No, exactly. This is why we're friends.
So weightlifting has
it's really helped. I think like my fatigue makes me feel so weak at times.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that I love so much about weightlifting and going to the gym is I feel like a strong little badass. Like it's so nice from like going and feeling so weak to actually feeling so capable of doing things. And so like not just capable, but like doing things well, like thriving a little bit, like doing things like I would say we're probably a lot stronger than like the general population of like girls our age, heights, weight and stuff like that. And just that, I'm like, it's such an achievement.
It's so rewarding. Like it must be so rewarding because obviously like there's been so many months and weeks of your life which you've just been in bed, like unable to do anything. And then you're hitting bloody 100 kg deadlift, like
and like stuff like that just makes me feel like so empowered and strong. And I think as well that's like one of the reasons why I love doing what I do, because I can see how empowered and strong that makes me feel. And it's like if I can help another girl out there feel that bloody badass, I would love to. I'd love to help.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a bit deep, but like
no, that is very good. What was I going to say?
I don't know. Brain fog.
Brain fog.
You're having brain fog now.
No, I was going to say, so you love strength training.
Yeah.
Does the chronic fatigue kind of get in the way of progressing strength-wise? Because obviously, to get stronger, you need to be like increasing weight and stuff. And like, if you kind of, are doing really well at the gym and then have these like episodes or whatever, and then you can't kind of progress, you feel like it just sets you back, or like...
Yeah, so that's like something that I do find like quite challenging, but I think it's the same as anyone else who goes to the gym, makes a bunch of progress, and then for whatever reason, whether it's to do with their motivation or circumstances or a lockdown, for example, they then miss out on the gym. And then there's always going to be that part of you that's a bit annoyed or frustrated that all that progress you did make, you've now lost, or not necessarily lost, but you've now gone backwards, I guess. So that is frustrating for me at times. So for example, right now I'm going through a little bit of an episode, I guess, of bad chronic fatigue, which means that right now my training is like very sporadic. I haven't really properly been to the gym in maybe 3 weeks or so, which is also part of the reason we haven't seen each other either. So it is a bit annoying at times, but I just kind of know it's just part of me, and I've just got to go, okay, I'm not gonna... Obviously I have days where I mope about and I go, poor me, and feel sorry for myself, and I let myself have those moments, and then I go, you know what, like, what am I going to do? Spend my whole life feeling sorry for myself? I can't. You've just got to get back up and just do what you can do. That's all anyone can ever ask. That's all we should really ask from ourselves, is to just do what you can do and just try to do a little bit better each day.
But I feel like it makes you stronger as a person, like mentally, and physically, because you're going through this thing which not many people understand, but also having those periods of training is good as well, because as we said in the other episode, rest is really important. And yes, you're resting, not normal rest. Obviously your body is very fatigued and stuff, but I feel like if you could go to the gym every week and progress, this pushes you to want to go back to the gym when you're better, and like
exactly
the way it's like,
and I think it also helps being a coach as well, because it really makes me be able to sympathize with beginners, because especially like now with it being the new year and everyone kind of wanting to go get either back into the gym or start the gym, like it really helps with my like sympathy towards beginners and starting the gym for the first time, because I think we forget like how scary it actually was starting the gym to begin with. Like I always look back and I go, okay, well, this is where I was and this is where I am now, but I don't particularly, to a certain extent, remember like when I first started the gym how scared I was, I don't think. Whereas then I tried to go to the gym a few days ago, and beforehand I even messaged my coach and I was like, I'm scared, because I was just like, I know I'm going to be so much weaker, I know there's so much I can't do, and it was just one of those things that I actually felt like a beginner again. So I think that's like really nice, because it helps me sympathize with clients, it helps me sympathize with other people starting, and it's just like, you know what, you've just got to... I did everything that I like tell my clients to do. Like I wrote down on my phone what I was going to do. I said to myself, look, we'll go for half an hour, see how that half an hour is. If you feel good, we'll stay a little bit longer. If you don't feel good, that's fine, we can leave. And I just really like went super slow and easy, just to like ease myself back into it.
Yeah, because you messaged me, you're like,
I'm stressed.
You're like, are you going to the gym today?
Yeah.
Like, I'm having my first session. Like,
yeah, I was like, what do I do?
But I'd already been or whatever. Yeah. And well, I hadn't been to the gym for 2 weeks, not because of chronic fatigue, just because of like Christmas. But like, I feel anxious starting back at the gym.
Yeah.
Even if it's 2 weeks. I mean, it felt longer than 2 weeks, but it's like, I don't know. I feel like when you're in the routine of going,
Yeah.
And then you haven't been in so long. It's like,
I think it's more mentally than physically as well.
yeah.
It's a mental thing because you know that, okay, well, I haven't been in a while, which means that I'm probably not going to be where I left off.
Yeah.
And I think then it's just a case of you've got to try and like push forward with that and just say to yourself, okay, I know I'm probably not going to be where I am, but if I don't go back now, I'm going to be even worse off.
Yeah. Exactly.
So let's just like pace it, take it real slow, and just try and ease ourselves back into it.
And muscle memory is a real thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Like you think about it, like you can deadlift a fucking lot, right? And then you have these episodes, and obviously, yeah, you're not going to be like smashing 100 kg after an episode.
Yeah.
But you can still do it. I mean, we've still lifted very heavy, and that's after you, like, you know, having an episode recovering, you know? So it just shows that, like, you can lift heavy.
Yeah, and the body is like an incredible thing.
It is.
The way it can do all of these different things, and you can train it to do all of these different things, is like amazing. And obviously, I know that I'm so, in terms of chronic fatigue, I know I am so privileged with, like, yeah, of course I've got chronic fatigue, but I could have it a lot worse.
Yeah.
Like so much worse. Like there's 25% of people with chronic fatigue, ME, are in like a wheelchair, they're bedbound.
Yeah.
And yes, I have been part of that 25% at points. But I'm just like so grateful that like I'm slowly starting to get out of that like routine now, and that I can do these things. And so yeah, it's so shit when I can't, but I've just got to remind myself that hopefully this is not permanent. Obviously, I know with chronic fatigue it can be a permanent thing, but for me, luckily, I know that yes, it may take 1 week to recover, it may take 6 months to recover, but I will get to a point where I will be strong enough to go back and do everything that I enjoy doing. And like even like something as simple as I managed to get well enough recently to go see my friends for New Year's, and it was like just the best thing ever. It was just so nice to be able to like go out and just see them again, and like see people, and just have like an evening to just like forget and just feel like normal and not fatigued and all of that. And like I said, I have good days and bad days, so yeah.
I was going to say something. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was just going to say, yeah, well, I guess it's a good feeling that you can actually go to the gym, because the gym helps so much mentally.
Yeah.
How's your mental health been like since, I mean, obviously growing up, you must have been so like kind of frustrated.
Yeah, I think I was very confused, and I just didn't, I think when I was younger, I did have more days where I was like, why me? Very much so. Like,
that is so
of
sad.
course. I know it is, isn't it? Looking back now, but it's just like, it was just one of those, it was just a process that I had to kind of go through, where I was just like, well, why me? And I'd see, like, especially as I got a bit older and social media became a thing, I'd be sat at home and I'd be on my phone and I'd be looking at all my friends going out and doing all these things, and I'd be like, I really want to go do those things.
Yeah. And
like, I'm going to be completely honest, there were times when I was off with chronic fatigue, and I would know that it was so and so's birthday in like a few weeks' time, and in my head I was, and it's probably the wrong attitude when I was younger and I had school and stuff, but when I was younger, in my head I was like, you know what, I'm going to do as much as I can to try and feel better so that I can go to my friend's birthday party, not even thinking about getting back to school or anything. I was just like, I'm just going to try and get better as much as I can. And then I would kind of go to these there was this one party that I went to in particular. I went to it after being off school for ages, and obviously my friends were really like happy and welcoming, but there were people there who were like, what, like, not why are you here, but you've been so unwell, but yet you're fine to be at a party, like, what? But it's like, yeah, I'm going to try and do everything I can to not miss out on things and to try and get myself better.
Because it's FOMO, like things. You know, when you're at that age, you don't want to miss out on going to these parties with all your friends and like, you know, having fun. Like,
and I think that's the thing, is like in this particular like example that I'm thinking of, I went to the party and then afterwards, like it's normal. I got ill again, like not as badly, but I wasn't great afterwards.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things that my parents they're so supportive, and like just have been incredible, like growing up. You're like looking at me, you're like, oh,
that's so cute.
Yeah, they've been so amazing and like supportive and stuff, and they would do like anything to make sure that I'm happy, and like do whatever they can to try and make sure like I'm living the best life.
Yeah.
And so little things like that, like they completely understood that, like as a teenager growing up, yeah, of course I'm going to prioritize going to a party and boys and stuff over school, aren't I? Like that's only normal. And they wanted me to try and have like as normal like life as possible.
Yeah, like
and
some sort of social life, like.
Yeah, exactly. Because there were times, like my mum in particular, well, both of my parents, but my mum I remember in A levels when I was unwell, most of my thinking ahead, most of my A levels and my subjects, I could do most of the work from home, but I did drama for A levels. And part of that was to actually, in order to get the grade, you had to physically be there in the lessons. That was a percentage of the grade, was just like turning up and putting your ideas into the group and stuff to kind of create the work. So my mum would, when I was like when I was pretty bad, she would drive me in for my 45-minute drama lesson to school. She'd like sit in the car park and wait for me. I'd like hobble in on my crutches. I would sit there for the lesson so that I could like I wouldn't be missing out on that percentage. And then she'd pick me up afterwards and then drive me home so that I could do the rest of my like schoolwork from home. And like just little things like that, like it just meant so much to me and stuff. And like I don't know, I think it's quite difficult for people to understand, because I've said before, like it is an invisible illness. So many people would look at me and go, Grace, you look great, like you look fine.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, well, thank you, but I'd be like, I don't feel it.
But it's also like mental health. Like mental health is invisible as well. Well,
yeah,
it can be. You know, someone could look completely fine.
Yeah.
But actually inside they're like suffering.
Yeah.
And I think you can't judge someone on how they
exactly
look. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's actually like how mental health has kind of come to be more understood in like the recent years, has actually almost helped people with invisible disabilities and illnesses.
Yeah.
Because it like mental health unfortunately used to be a joke to some people a long time ago.
No one really understood it. Like,
yeah, no one understood that exactly, you look fine, you are fine. And so I think that has helped people with these invisible illnesses as well, because people are finally starting to realize that just because someone looks fine doesn't mean they actually are fine. And so I think that's definitely helped with like people understanding me and other people with chronic fatigue and other people with other invisible disabilities as well.
So what would you say to someone who thinks they may have it but are unsure? Because obviously, you know, I felt fatigue, like when I had like a virus, I was fatigued, and I still get fatigue. How can you kind of tell whether it's just fatigue, like kind of on its own, rather than like chronic fatigue syndrome or something different? Yeah,
like obviously I am not a medical professional,
just your
but my opinion on it, I would say obviously go to a professional like a doctor, tell them your symptoms and stuff. But also I think chronic fatigue is a lot more common than most people realize. When I was younger, no one had heard of it. And then this girl that I knew, who's now one of my amazing friends, but at the time, like I didn't really know her. We were just talking and stuff. And then I think when I was younger, I did used to be quite embarrassed about having fatigue. So I wouldn't necessarily like willingly like put it out there to people. But there was one evening where we were doing uni work and I felt literally awful. And she was kind of asking me like all these questions, and I was like, what, like, why is she trying to like ask all these things? And it's because she had chronic fatigue as well, and she recognized it in me.
No way.
And she was she didn't want to like say, I think you've got chronic fatigue to me, but she kind of like, I think she secretly knew that I did have it, but she was just trying to like, without throwing it out there and making me feel uncomfortable, she was trying to like hint at it so that I would kind of say it, so she could say it, so she could be like, actually, I understand what you're going through. But if you think you've got it, like I said, go to a doctor. But also, especially with COVID at the moment and long COVID, it's not a good thing that COVID and long COVID has happened, but it's kind of a good thing for chronic fatigue, in the sense that long COVID is very, very similar to chronic fatigue, like so similar. So they're actually starting to put a lot more research into it and into chronic fatigue now because of it, because so many people are getting it.
Yeah, I think it can be hard to differentiate, and I think some people might just be like, oh, I'm not going to go to the doctor because it's just fatigue.
Yeah, like, oh, I just feel a bit tired. But actually, like, from me, like, feeling just a bit tired can really like ruin parts of your life and the quality of your life as well.
And like everyday activities, like obviously if you are like bound and stuff for so long, you can't even do, go for a walk or
and like that's one of the things that I found is like, even like, I think I was lucky in the sense like I never had like nasty comments really, or at least to my face. It's so funny because you're sat here like, oh my god, I feel so sorry for you. But no, it's fine. But like,
you're a strong girl.
I'm a strong gal,
mentally and physically.
But yeah, like there were points when, so like for example, when I use my crutches, I don't have a broken leg. I'm not going to stand there hopping about. Occasionally I'll hop if I'm in a bit of a rush and need to like go a bit faster, but the whole point of the crutches are there to help me walk. So I remember like a guy coming up to me at school. He was like, you're not using crutches properly. Why do you have them? And I was like, what? I was like, oh, they're just here to like help me walk. And he was like, but you don't have a broken foot. Why do you need them? So I was just like, at the time, I was just like, oh, I just do. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to hop away now.
That would have pissed me off so much. And then like if I had it and I was younger, I would feel a bit like insecure and like
definitely, of course, like, and kind of like I said before, like I would never really openly state it to people, just because I was embarrassed by it, and I thought, okay, well, I'm like the weirdo kid with the illness and stuff, and like now, I mean, I don't scream it from the rooftops that I've got it, but if I start to like spend time with people, like, so for example, when we first became friends and we started to like hang out, I did tell you, because I was like, you know what, if something does happen to me, I want you to understand. And that's the same, like if I start to hang out with like anyone new, for like after I feel like more comfortable, I will just tell them and just be like, heads up, by the way, I have this, just in case. And I think when I was younger, that was a lot more important to do, because these collapses would just happen. Like they did not care where they happened. Like the middle of the school happened. I was walking to a music lesson and I started to feel unwell, and I kind of like, I think in my head I knew that I was going to have a collapse, so I sped up walking because I was like, just get me to a seat, like I just want to sit down. And there were so many people around, and like you can't help it. Like I collapsed when I was at school in front of people, and I was like, it is what it is.
Oh my god, that must have been so hard to deal with.
But and then that's the thing, I think, as well, is like kids as well, you haven't fully got your maturity there yet, so you don't understand like what's going on to someone else. Like when you see that, you go, oh, has she fallen over, has she fainted, like what's going on? And then I obviously wouldn't go into school for a while, and then it'll be like, where's Grace, what's going on?
I feel like I'm glad you told me, because imagine you collapsed like right now, and like you wouldn't know what to do. I would panic, and like all of these thoughts would come into my head, like what's happened. So I feel like it is good to tell people, especially if you do see them all the time. But also it's good that we have like this platform to speak about it, because it isn't.
Yeah.
I mean, I sort of knew about it. I know some people who have it. I'm not like extremely close with them, but I kind of
knew it existed.
A little stuff about it, but I only recently found out that ME was the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many more facts that I've known, that I've, you know, I know now than like from you and stuff. But
yeah, like an ME is, so ME and chronic fatigue is basically the same
what
thing.
does ME stand for?
I was really hoping you were going to say this.
I'll Google it.
It is unpronounceable.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sure someone could pronounce it, but I definitely can't.
That's probably why people say chronic fatigue.
Yeah. Like, oh my god, no. Yeah, I can't. It's I'm not even going to try. Not even going to try. I will absolutely butcher it. We'll put it in the show notes.
You were very young when you were diagnosed.
Yeah,
and we've already talked about some of the challenges. Yeah, you had to
overcome. Yeah,
is there any more that you had to?
Yeah, there definitely probably were. I think, like I kind of said when I was younger, like I said before in the podcast, when you are younger, like your priorities are so different to what they are now. So my priorities at the time were like my friends and like going to school, not necessarily to do the work, but like going to school to see my friends and stuff, and like going to parties and just like going out and doing things. Like I just kind of, like as fun as it was, obviously every now and again being off school, like I missed school and I missed my friends and I missed going to do things and stuff. And I think, I would say the main challenges from having that is, for myself, it would be like not seeing my friends and like missing out on stuff. Like I found that really difficult and stuff. But then also I definitely noticed from like other people, like there were so many people that just did not understand it whatsoever. Like I even had like people go to teachers and say, we think Grace is faking it.
Oh, you're okay.
Yeah, like so I was actually really lucky. So I was, when I was unwell, I kind of became, or like one of the teachers kind of like took me a bit under her wing. Like she was so lovely. She was my house mistress at the time, actually, because I went to like a flexi boarding school, so you could board if you want, you could not board if you didn't want. So we had like houses a bit like Hogwarts.
I had houses.
Yeah, so we had houses like Hogwarts, but like our houses were like actual houses. Like there were actual buildings that you were like assigned to, where you had like, if you boarded, you had your own room there, and like you had like your common rooms, classrooms, lockers, all of that kind of stuff in there. So there were a few girls in my year who went to our house mistress saying, we just don't really think it's fair. Like Grace can like leave school when she wants. She can like go and have like rests, and that's like in, what are these called? Speech marks? Yeah, inverted. Yeah. Like rests when she wants, and like we don't think it's really fair. Like we think she's faking it. Which, like at the time, I was obviously this house mistress told my parents, and then my parents told me that this situation had happened. And at the time, I was obviously really upset by it. But looking back now, like they were
just jealous because you were missing school, but at the same time, you weren't choosing.
I didn't want to miss school. Like I was probably at a disadvantage in a sense, and like especially with like my brain fog as well. This is why I'm like such a firm believer that like exams are such a bad way to like test students, because with my brain fog, there were so many times when I just could not remember stuff. And obviously, so I did a drama degree as well, actually. And then I did like all the school plays and stuff. And there was a point I was like maybe the female lead, one of the female leads at the time. And we did a tech run. This was maybe when I was in like year 10 or something. And I was in the middle of recovering. So I had like my crutches on the side of the stage, just in case I needed it. Yeah. And I, thank God it was the tech run or dress rehearsal. It was like one of those tech run dress rehearsals or something. And I walked on stage And I knew my lines. I did know them, could not think of them for the life of me. Like literally just went blank, which thank God it was like the dress run, because God, if that was a real show, that would have been so bad.
So much stress.
I know. So like there's like little things like that I found like challenging at school. And I guess in terms like linked back to fitness wise, like because of my chronic fatigue, I wasn't a very active kid. So I mean, like, yeah, not going to lie, I had no hand-eye coordination whatsoever. I'm not ashamed to say it. Like, just please don't throw a ball at me or like expect me to play hockey or something, because it's just not going to work.
Yeah.
But apart from that, like physically, yeah, I would do what I could do, but I was never going to be like the sporty kid at school because I physically couldn't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess this relates a lot to like my like fitness journey in a sense. And I think it's kind of probably like important to say before we kind of get into like how I became to be a PT, because it's kind of so shocking. I think like just looking at it from like an outside perspective, it's so shocking that like how can someone who has to be so careful with physical activity can then go and be a PT.
Yeah, like some people might think that it's like the two kind of don't match up.
Yeah, and I completely get that. Like that, It makes complete sense to me that, and I trust me, if any of the PE teachers that like taught me at school probably found out I was PT now, they would like be so shocked, because I was just so not sporty at all when I was at school. And obviously now, like as I've gotten older, I have like managed to learn my symptoms, and I have learnt what I can do and what I can't do, and I really pace myself so that I'm never pushing myself to like past the point that I can do things.
I mean, obviously we haven't really delved into like all the science behind it.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think like, yeah, I think it's important to just kind of get a perspective and an experience out there, because like I said before, everyone's is so different. And we will link, there's a really good podcast that we've both listened to, and we can link that in the show notes below, and that kind of goes more into the scientific aspect of chronic fatigue.
And there's so much that I learn scientifically about chronic fatigue, and kind of how all the chemicals and hormones and all of this in your body, like, you know, that I never knew before. And it kind of like, I understand why it happens, but then I also don't understand why it happens at the same time. Like, obviously there's no diagnosis, is there? I mean, not diagnosis, I mean cure.
Yeah, so there's no known cure for it. People obviously have been known, and like this is the one thing that I've always been told ever since I was 8 years old, is people have been known to grow out of it as they get older. And to a certain extent that has happened to me, which I'm really lucky for. I obviously still to this day have chronic fatigue syndrome. I still suffer with it, or live with it, whatever term you want to say, because I don't want to say suffer with it because it feels a bit like naff, but like, you know what I mean. I still have chronic fatigue syndrome. It still affects me to this day. I have good days, I have bad days. It still can affect like certain relationships I have, like friendships, relationships, all of that kind of stuff. Like it is such a massive like part of my life, and I do think about it a lot, like whether I'm experiencing it or not, because I've got to be so mindful in order to like keep myself well and like look after myself.
Because you said you hadn't collapsed since 2017.
Yeah.
So what year did you start uni?
So I started uni 2018.
Okay.
2017.
God, we'll do this.
I started uni 27. So I collapsed in January of 2017 on my gap year, and then I started getting better, and then I went to uni in September of 2017, and then graduated 2020. I did have chronic fatigue when I was at uni, and like sometimes it would affect me. I had one, luckily it happened over the Christmas holidays, so it didn't affect my uni work too much. But I had one really bad episode. I luckily didn't collapse, but I was pretty much bedbound for a few weeks. That was the Christmas holidays of third year for me. Third year? Yeah, third year.
So last Christmas.
Christmas for that. So Christmas of 2020.
Oh.
No, of like January of 2020. So that was like the closest I've got to having a collapse at uni. But yeah, like I would just know to pace myself. I'd know that, yeah, maybe I can't go on as many nights out as like I'd like to, and maybe I can't go to the gym all the time and stuff, but I managed to kind of make it work. And I do think like going to uni, being in that new environment and stuff was so good for me, and like making new friends and all of that kind of stuff. Like I did, like looking back, I did so much growing up, like where I was to begin with at uni to like where I was at the end, like is like such, I think anyone would say that though, like it's such like a step up. And you know what, even just going for the experience, I would recommend going to uni.
Thank you so much for today's episode.
Thank you so much for having me. I was about to say thanks for coming on, but I'm like, we're always here. So no, thank you so much for interviewing me.
It's okay.
I obviously have not covered not even a quarter of stuff to do.
You could have talked for ages about it.
With stuff to do with chronic fatigue. But obviously, like, we just kind of wanted to focus on my experience today. If you guys would like to know more, then we definitely love to get like a professional on to talk to us a little bit, or if you've got any questions, or if you're even struggling with it and like just want someone to talk to, my DMs are always open. Because
I feel like we haven't talked a lot about the science behind it.
No.
Because I mean, we're not health professionals.
Yeah, like, this is thing is like we didn't want to cover something that's not in our profession.
Yeah, or something we don't even. I mean, I don't know a lot of the science behind it. I've kind of done some more reading and listened to podcasts about it and stuff, but I feel like, you know,
there's so much to it. And that is the thing, is like so much of the stuff that I was told when I was 8 years old hasn't, like, either the advice has completely changed now, or as far as I'm aware from what my doctors have told me, there's actually not a lot of research to do with it currently. So it is such like a crazy huge topic to cover. And I guess I can just speak from my own personal experience and what I personally know from it and what I've been told by my doctors. But I think it would be really interesting to get a professional on to speak with us more about it, if you guys would like. And even if like you experience chronic fatigue and you want to kind of share your experiences, then we'd love to hear it. Yeah, we would. And any questions, ask Grace. If there is a lot of questions, like very specific ones or any ones that we haven't covered, then we could always do like a part 2 in the future. Yeah, we can definitely do a part 2. Like we said, just message me if you've got anything that you'd like to ask, or if there's topics you want us to cover in future episodes, then message one of us as well. What is your Instagram? My Instagram is at Claudia Grace Fit with 2 T's at the end. And my Instagram is at Grace Petrie PT. That's Petrie. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and we'll speak to you very soon. Bye. Bye.